Another video on making use of these dehydrated oranges that I made. So I've been trying to put them in the cakes, and it's kind of worked, but not really. It doesn't kind of give like an intense orange kind of flavour. I tried upping the amount of flour in the cake, using these to replace the flour, and it kind of didn't work. The cake sank. Still ate it. It was very nice. And then, so I was kind of thinking, well, I don't know kind of where I'm going wrong. I used a bread flour which had high gluten content. I thought the gluten would hold the cake together better, but that didn't really kind of work either. So, and then I was kind of thinking and mulling things over, and I kind of thought, well, why am I replacing the flour with this powdered dehydrated orange? Why don't I use those as the sugar instead? So that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to do a 3-egg cake mixture. So that's 6 ounces of flour, 6 ounces of butter, 6 ounces of sugar, and 3 eggs. And what I've done is I have pureed the 2 ounces of the dehydrated orange into 4 ounces of the sugar. So that's going to be my 6 ounces of sugar. Now, don't use the food processor, because it don't want to work. What happens is the food processor gets hot and the sugar wants to melt to the blades of the food processor, and then it doesn't want to chop up the orange because they've clogged up the blades. So use the spice grinder instead, which is that there. So as you can see, that there. We can't just powder up the orange. It kind of wants to go into a paste. There's still a little bit of moisture in there, so what happens is it wants to go into a paste. So it's best off that we puree it down with the sugar, and then we get a powder. There is little flecks. It's not perfectly powdered, but it'll do. So 6 ounces of this mixture with 6 ounces of fat. I'm going to cream that together, make the cake mixture. We'll give it a little bit of a taste now. That's very nice. It always goes. It would be. It was always going to be, wasn't it? And then we'll give it a little bit of a taste before we bake the cake. So make the cake. We're back. Give it a taste. Put it into a cake baking cake tin, and away we go. Right. So cake mixture is made. It's a little bit grainy, but that's down to the oranges not being 100% pureed. So give it a taste with a finger, because I'm at home and I don't care. It's not as sweet as a normal cake mixture, understandably, because there's like 2 ounces less of sugar in. And there's a little bit of an orangey flavour, but not a huge amount. But anyway, so what are my thoughts before we bake it? My thoughts are that this is kind of it. Although I'm trying to use up these oranges and inject a different kind of orangey flavour into the cake, this might turn into like a sugar substitute type of thing. So we don't have to put as much sugar in things if we're using this dehydrated orange. Maybe. Anyway, so let's bake it and we'll see what happens. Right, let's have a look. That looks alright, isn't it? That looks alright. How does it smell? I certainly smell the orange. We'll see how that turns out. I don't think it's going to drop. That's always when you do faff around with cakes, that's always the danger that it's going to drop once it's baked. Although, if you want a cake to drop and be level, extra baking powder will do that job for you. But anyway, so we'll let it cool. We'll see what it's like. Now, although we can see speckles of the orange in it, which have caramelized, but cut it in half, and then we'll get a look at the centre. If we cut it at the end, that's going to be more dried out than the centre, like the crust. So it's alright, isn't it? That's alright. I mean, it's gonna a more orangey, yellowy colour because of the orange in it. It looks alright. What does it smell like? What does it taste like? It looks like it's worked. But it's still cakey. That's really nice of that. It's not as light. It's not as light as a cake that just uses caster sugar, but it's nice, and it's given like a denser cake, something more along the lines of like a fruit cake, or something that's like a cake that's like a date and so it's got like a consistency of like a date and walnut cake. So I don't know what practical applications this has at all, but it's one of those. So I was thinking, if you can do it with oranges, dehydrated oranges, and you could do it with other dehydrated fruit, and you could cut down the amount of sugar that you put in things, and you put in a different sugar in. So that's one thing, and it also kind of changes the texture. And then I once saw something, and someone made some cookies using some apple puree. I don't know if the apple puree was instead of the sugar or instead of the eggs, but it's kind of like along those kind of lines. So to make dehydrated oranges and then to purposely use them in a cake, it's a long way around doing something that you don't need to do. So pointless in that kind of way, but it's interesting. It's interesting, and it leads to other things and other questions. So, like if I make rich fruit cakes, to put that dehydrated orange powder in instead of some of the sugar would make an interesting cake. And you don't miss the sugar, certainly with all that fruit in there. But it's interesting. So, and I probably won't eat it. I'll probably put it in a sponge or something like that because I've got enough cake in the house. But as an experiment, it worked, and it'll potentially lead somewhere else. You know, like and give me a deeper understanding of cakes. So that's success.